Welcome to Agenda Review. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Casamon?
Here.
Mr. Phillips? Ms. Tanner?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
Here.
Mr. Kugel?
Here.
Mr. Bender? And Mr. Lachlan?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So at this time, we're going to pull the following from the agenda. Number 10, ordinance calendar number 7866. Number 11, ordinance calendar number 7867. Number 12, ordinance calendar number 7868. Number 13, ordinance calendar number 7869. And number 14, ordinance calendar number 7870. We're also going to pull resolution C7098 and ordinance for adoption number 7822. On the ordinance for adoption, it's number 1. And the resolution is 7, I think. Number 7 on the resolution. And fellow council members, anyone else have anything else they want to pull?
Mr. Chair, could you repeat what's on the just the numbers on the consent calendar? Yes.
Okay, so number 10, number 11, number 12, number 13, number 14 under the finance. Yep. And the other ones was the number 7 under the resolutions, and then number 1 under the ordinance for adoption.
And pull number 23, ordinance calendar number 7879.
7879, yeah. Yes, sir. Number 7879, where's that at? That's, all right. Administration, y'all have anything y'all want to pull this time? No? Anybody from the audience? All right, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to refer.
Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to refer number 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 to the finance.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All right, and then I'll also entertain a motion to.
For the remainder of the agenda.
Oh yeah, never mind. I'll entertain a motion to refer the remainder of the agenda. The items pulled to the full council.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Okay.
Now we're going to go to each of the other items and discuss them.
Okay, we're doing that before the presentation? Okay. So now we're going to which one first?
The resolution.
The resolution. Okay, we're going to go to resolution number 7. That's Council Series number C7098. The resolution approving the holding of an election in Fire Protection District number 11 of the Parish of St. Tammany, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, October 11th, 2025, to authorize the renewal of special tax therein. Councilman Kugel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fire District 11 is pretty much the town of Pearl River and the area around there. They do an amazing job, and I just wanted to have them come up and speak about this just for a minute. We have the fire chief here, and I think the consultant as well. Yeah, if you could identify yourself, come speak. Thank you.
Council. We're assisting the district with the election. This is just a standard 10-year renewal of the district's 10 mills ad valorem tax. In order for us to get through bond commission and put this item on the ballot, we have to come to you all for approval as you created the district. Happy to answer any questions you have, and the chief is also here to explain that as well.
You guys do an amazing job, Chief. You know, I mean, I always see you. So, I mean, there's part of the the job of fire, not the job of the fire district, but certainly what you guys do is not only, emergency services and protection, but you're so active in the community, always present. I love the social media stuff you guys do, and I absolutely love the Christmas stuff you guys do. And I have little doubt that the town's going to be supportive of renewing this.
All right. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
I
Chair.
had a chance to read through it. I was just curious what your annual operating expenses were, and what is your fund balance? And if it's in the packet, I'll read through it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I'd have to get back with you on what you're asking.
Okay? It's not a rush. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The motion is second, refer to the full council.
I need a motion and a second to refer to the full council. Second. All in favor? Yeah. Thank you. All right, moving on to ordinance for introduction, number 23, ordinance calendar number 7879, ordinance to amend St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Part 1 Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 1, in general to add Section 14-4, gate access system requirements to require restricted access communities to install a siren-operated sensor. Councilman Laughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say that for the people who don't know, all of our private subdivisions and gated communities like apartment complexes, we do not have a standard way for the fire department or emergency services to gain access. What the intent of this is to create a new standard for any new gated communities that are coming in, and then also a way for the existing community to come into compliance. This will mandate a siren box, which only from what my understanding, and I can ask the chiefs that are here, only a siren or emergency vehicle will actually be able to open the door. Currently, they're using a series of codes that some of them that reduce security and things like that, and some of the codes aren't any good. Chief, did you want to say anything to this?
Thank you all. Yes, in some cases, the remotes, because a lot of the first responder agencies have remotes, and they don't always access or work properly when you're trying to get through the gates. The siren guarantees those gates will open 24/7. So under emergency, that's the last resort, and we would like to standardize it across the parish. Any questions? Thank you. You have one?
Yes. Now, I know Money Hill has set up something with the fire district where they have the codes. They probably have a remote, but they can push the code and get in. If something like that is done, do they still need to go through all this other?
Yes, this is a last resort for emergency access. In east side of the parish, we have probably, I think it's 3 different gate contractors. So everybody could have their own codes and process. From a dispatching standpoint, we dispatch for all fire and EMS in the parish. It is a nightmare if you can't access or your code does not work or one of the remotes. So last resort, when they hit the siren on the truck, it's the noise that actually opens the gate. So I would say it's the best thing we could do to standardize access to any of these gates during emergency across the parish. Because you don't want to find out at 3 in the morning that something's not working. And you do go through dispatch, but we have codes, all that would still be in place. But this would be a standard backup to all gates that are installed.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chief, I just wanted to, Robbie in your office told me that sometimes these codes change.
Yes.
So like a new, like a small HOA, like let's say the code's 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you get a new HOA president. First thing they do is change that kind of secret code they all use. So y'all would be out of luck.
Yes, well, Domino's has those codes now. I'm joking, but they pound 0911, that used to be a code 25 years ago. But that happens 100%. But we do have codes today specific to the fire departments, law enforcement, dispatch, both law enforcement and fire have those codes. But sometimes it changes, the gate contractors change, and there's a delay in that update. I go back to last resort that that Yelp siren actually will open the gate. You get so many feet in front of the gate, you hit the siren, and the gates automatically open. So it removes that possibility of not being able to make access. I mean, let's not forget, we're in a time is life business, so I would recommend approval because this is a public safety issue across the parish.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Kugel?
Corbin.
Corbin, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, Chris. Do you have a rough order of magnitude of what the cost is for this system to be installed?
I can't think that it's that expensive.
Is it 50, 500,
I have
5,000?
I couldn't even tell you. I know we have most of them in the Slidell area.
Okay. We have no idea what costs we're imposing.
No.
Okay.
No. I could find out though before.
If you could find out,
I'll find that out
that
before
would
we
help
leave.
mitigate. I'd heard it was fairly inexpensive, but I've not
I
heard
can't
the
imagine it
definition of what
being expensive.
inexpensive is. So I think it's just important for us to be able to answer that question.
Yes.
Ms. Tanner?
Thank you, sir.
I would like to know that cost too. And can I ask, I don't know how to do this, a moment of personal privilege since the chief is up here.
Go ahead.
The resolution number 6, C7097, do we have to do something in order? We had approved it, but I want to pull it. Okay. 7097, I'm sorry. Did I read it wrong? I probably did. Now I can see it. C7097, number 6, it's the resolution to hold an election. I think it's on the $39 parcel fee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My understanding that this was a temporary fee that was allowed to be put on the ballot after Katrina.
And I would say that's not correct.
Okay.
Because I was at every meeting that was in public.
Okay.
We went to, I think, over 22 meetings in that period, and we were the worst hit taxing body in St. Tammany Parish when Hurricane Katrina hit. A third of our district didn't pay tax for 3 years. The assessor waived those taxes. We went out and diversified our revenue. The parcel fee is $39. You have to have a structure on the parcel. In apartment complex we worked with, they only pay one parcel fee, not per unit. But the people that paid no tax pay at least $39 because we had a significant amount of homes that were completely homestead exempt. But we did diversify. It generates gross about $1.4 million. We pay the tax collector and the assessor a fee for that collection. We net about $1.29 million a year, and it's pretty stagnant. It's not the way to operate solely on a parcel fee, but it does help us diversify our revenue. And over the past 15 years, we've rolled back millage, which everybody that owns property pays. We rolled back millage 8 of those 15 years. So we've been able to do a combination of both. And this will be our 3rd term.
So it wasn't a temporary
No, ma'am.
because of Katrina?
No, ma'am. We did it in '06
Okay.
because of the loss of revenue.
Right.
And we've taken a long time to rebuild. We're proud today we're debt-free. We're a government agency debt-free. And we operate a $29.5 million budget.
Okay, and you have about, as of the 23 audit, you have about $14 million in cash and equivalent?
Some of those funds are dedicated. We have 3 months of reserve, $6.9 million. We have $2 million in a disaster fund, and we have $2 million dedicated to Station 10, which I'll be the first to tell you, I'm attending the meeting on May 7th in Lakeshore Villages. That station will be getting a piece of ground donated for Station 10. But those monies are dedicated.
Okay, and Chief, I love you dearly, but I have a problem with taxes on the people. If you're collecting enough that for your regular taxing bill, I would like to see this go away or something. And I will yield to the Slidell end, since this is their tax, with my concerns, and do whatever they would like to do. But I have a problem. We need to see about lowering taxes, and so I am looking at everything that comes up. Okay?
No, I can appreciate that. I do as well.
Okay.
And we do believe we're good stewards of taxpayers' money, completely transparent, third international accreditation status. We're going into our 11th to 15 years. So we have been assessed inside and out and best practices, and we're one of 330 fire departments in the world that's internationally accredited. So I welcome and open my doors, complete transparency to anyone here. I would love to still be able to have the parcel fee and allow the people the democratic process to vote, because it passed overwhelmingly in the previous 2 elections. And I think we have a proven track record how we handle the taxpayers' funding. So I would love to be able to reduce taxes on everybody that's paying taxes. So the parcel fee allowed that to happen in some cases.
Anyone else?
Is this
Councilman Corbin?
Yeah, Chris, I think you mentioned, what does your millage generate?
About 26 million, right under 26. We talking gross numbers, net after uncollected.
That's okay, as long as you know what it is.
Adjudicated.
Perfect. Thank you.
Tax collector.
Yeah.
Operate just like your checkbook. I operate on net dollars. That's how I create a budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Martha?
Did you say you were putting this to a vote of the people?
We proposed it on October 11th for renewal.
Okay. As long as the people voice their opinion, you know, if this is something that they feel necessary and they get a vote in it, I don't want us to arbitrarily, you know, put this on them. So this is for an election. Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
And we will be out in public speaking in
Okay.
details about it as well.
Okay.
Full campaign. Any other questions?
Staff, did you have a question?
I just did a quick Google search about the siren box. So it's anywhere between $150 to $500. Just to give y'all.
There you go. Thank you.
Small price to pay for public safety.
Yes.
Ms. Tanner has her light on.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Ms.
it.
Tanner still has her.
Oh, I'm
Question, Chief.
sorry, one more time.
Sorry. And I understand you run a great fire department and you have funding. I worry about the rural districts, fire districts that struggle by with their funding. And I have a couple in my area that really struggle with those finances. So I guess that's where I'm coming from, is some fire districts has money to operate and some don't. And I understand rural and urban, but thank you so much.
Truly challenged on the tax base. And I understand it. We obviously try to help many of the small fire departments in the parish. We've consolidated dispatch. District 9 and 10 is consolidated. I do speak in public quite often. In the big picture, you know, each district has its own taxing body, its boundaries and population. And I would encourage people to look into all of those things prior to moving into any jurisdiction. When I say that, not every jurisdiction has a Home Depot and Walmart because they don't have the population. They don't have a hospital, or in some cases an ambulance staged. So I would tell everyone to look into those things 100%, because you have to have a tax base to be able to operate. And I think there's some opportunity going forward that we can do some creative things together to better the service. We've done some things already. The Fire Chiefs Association of St. Tammany has worked seamlessly to share resources and funding and training to better serve all of the citizens of St. Tammany Parish. I was president of that organization for 11 years up until the recent past few months. And that is on the top of our agenda, regardless of the size of your agency, that we train, we share resources to try to deliver as much as we can equally across the board. The biggest cost, we're a labor organization. Salaries and benefits are 80 to 90% of all fire department costs. I can't change that component. And that's the biggest cost, is to increase manpower to better serve some of those smaller areas.
Thank you.
Councilman Pistato?
Chief, said one question. How much over assessment did you collect this past year?
How much time do y'all have? I'm serious. Because you asked me the question, I'll be glad to answer it. It ain't just Fire District 1.
No, but just
It's the
Fire
entire,
District 1.
yeah, it's a little over 2 million. Yes. You talking about the cushion?
Whatever
Let's call it what it is.
Just the amount.
Yes.
Well, I haven't asked you your plans. I'm sure you all have plans to address the cushion and how you got more funds than you anticipated. But how does this partial fee relate to that?
It has nothing to do with this. Fire District 1 has requested an audit from the LLA and the Tax Commission on the reassessment that just happened, to answer your question, because we would like to get to the bottom of it. That has been a challenge climbing up a ladder to get that done even at the state level. That's being done as we speak, and none of this was anything we could actually confirm until the tax roll was certified at the end of October in '24, because all your non-elected boards vote in July. So we're voting on numbers that are given to us by our assessor. So we were given an adjusted mill rate with a gross number. Every taxing body in this parish, out of 42 taxing bodies, 38 rolled back to the adjusted mill rate. The adjusted mill rate's supposed to be revenue neutral. So 2 days later, we get a tax roll that has a different number on it than we were given.
Well, and I guess what I'm wondering.
That's the cushion that I'm explaining
I
to you
know,
right
and I'm
now.
not trying to open up that whole Pandora's box, but I'm wondering.
I can't answer it any other way.
But if you got $2 million over, why do you need the partial fee?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because when you're doing the budget process, obviously if the adjusted mill rate would have been correct, because we're questioning that today, now that the roll's been certified, every taxing body that really don't understand the process, it's complicated. I'm not sure everybody here understands the process. If you would have been given a corrected adjusted mill rate, each taxing body has to by law adopt that adjusted mill rate and then has the opportunity after advertisement, public meeting, to roll forward. That process is gone. So I'm going back to, yes, there was additional monies. We created a budget. I can tell you, District 1, I have no plan on recommending rolling any millage up this year. This needs to be settled before anything happens going forward, in my opinion. And I'm not sure if we're able to roll back, but I put a budget together. 2 of my board members sit on the budget committee. I don't budget to a number. I do a budget, then I cut from there to balance the budget. So to answer your question, each budget, we have zero-based budget, I do annually. So we will see, once June 1st, I start the budget for '26. And we'll put that together and a recommendation will be made to the Board of Commissioners. But I don't know where that number is because that whole process starts back up in May.
Okay.
For this next year. That's how soon this all happens before the vote, or before the budgets are presented and voted on for next year. So I hope this gets settled. I'm just giving y'all my word today. I have no intention of recommending to Fire District 1's board to roll forward. We may stay where we are, which is at the adjusted mill rate, because we really don't know what that number is going to look like if it changes.
I got you.
And that goes for every taxing body in this parish. I don't want you to think it's Fire District 1. This is not about Fire District 1. Fire District 1 asks the question why. Just so we're clear with everyone here. Councilman Tanner, I'm with you 100% on taxes. That's why we took the lead in asking why in this process. But it put all taxing bodies in a very awkward position now. Some didn't realize what they were given, and they vote. Everybody has to vote, including this council, on a mill rate. And we would like to believe we're given a mill rate that matches the value. And that's what we're asking questions about. We're asking for that to be audited and with a report. And we officially have requested that, by the way. That's in writing to both the LLA and the Tax Commission.
Councilman Laughlin.
Chief. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, I'd just like to say thank you, and also just to move to, so that this meeting can move forward, to stay for the finance portion, for the Finance Committee meeting if you can.
I will try
Thank
to
you.
do that. Thank you.
Mr. Corbin.
Yeah, Chris, I'm sorry, I still got a question. you mentioned just a moment ago that we understand about the parcel fee and what its source was, and you mentioned a moment ago that you're, at least of what you know today, your recommendation would be to hold at the current millage rate versus rolling forward. My only question would be is if there was an extra amount that was provided last year, would it not be prudent to roll back to offset that?
That's exactly what I'm
Or is
explaining.
that what you're trying to understand?
That's what I will do by June, because I will have a budget draft put together for our 26 budget. Y'all know, I can't speak for every taxing body, but we have 2% mandate on salaries that happen annually. All of those things will be factored in. If we can make an adjustment, I will make that recommendation. However, remember, in every 4-year cycle, every taxing body has to roll forward to the voter-approved millage maximum to maintain what the voters approve for the remaining life of that millage. Mm-hmm. So by law, every 4 years, every taxing body has to roll up to that max to keep it. But just what you said is what my plan is. And Joe, I would like to maintain the parcel fee, because in that balance, I think I just told you, 8 out of 15 years we've been able to make an adjustment because of the parcel fee. It's a constant $39. Doesn't matter how much money you make, where you live at, you just have to have a structure on your property. It diversifies our revenue. And again, I'm going to go back to an agency that was hit more than any taxing body in this parish. We lost more dollar in value, and we are debt-free, a government agency, debt-free, internationally accredited. You know, when I tell you about best practices when it comes to finances. So, again, I'm completely open. Anybody wants to come meet with me, I'll be glad to do that as well. I believe in transparency and getting $1.50 out of a dollar for our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, seeing no more comments, I'll need a motion and a second for ordinance calendar number 7879. Second. All in favor? Thank you. All right, on to ordinance for adoption number 1, ordinance calendar number 7822. It's an ordinance amending the official zoning map, Exhibit 1 of St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, and Chapter 400 zoning of the Parish Code of Ordinances in accordance with the Coastal Resilient Land Use Study recommendations, including zoning map amendments within the land area located in District 7 and 11 and bounded by I-12 to the north, east by Highway 433, and west by Highway 190 in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, in response to ordinances CS 23-5151, CS 24-5408, and CS 24-5409, which imposed moratoriums on permits for the construction of certain buildings in St. Tammany Parish. Wards 4, 7, and 9, District 7 and 11. Councilman Laughlin?
You had cards for those.
And do we take those first?
Do the card?
Yeah, let me
Do the cards first?
We got some speakers here. Casey Forshag. Could you state your name, please?
Casey Forshag. I'm here representing the North Shore Home Builders Association. I believe y'all received a letter today from them. I'm going to read the letter for everybody. On behalf of the North Shore Home Builders Association, I'm writing to represent the residential home building industry and its critical contributions to our community's economy, stability, and growth. Our association's goals are twofold: protecting our members' livelihoods and safeguarding the property rights of homeowners throughout St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Washington parishes. Housing is not just an industry, it's the cornerstone of economic vitality. Residential construction fuels local tax revenues, supports our schools, bolsters public safety, and funds vital infrastructure. It's no exaggeration when we remind you that residential construction is the third largest economic driver in St. Tammany Parish. However, today we are increasingly concerned about the pace and scope of governmental regulations that threatens to stifle this growth and place undue burdens on homeowners. The Coastal Resiliency Land Use Study is, in its current form, represents such a threat. After years of collaboration on the Unified Development Code, believing we had reached a fair and balanced approach to responsible development, we are disheartened to see the Coastal Resiliency Land Use Study rush towards adoption, despite clear issues with its data, omissions, and a lack of full consideration of its long-term consequences. Significant concerns have already been raised, including the need for carved out certain areas, recognizing distinctions between residential, commercial, and industrial and governmental development, and accounts for ongoing and future flood mitigation efforts like levee projects. We are not asking you to disregard resiliency planning. We are asking you to slow down and ensure that any policy you adopt is built on sound, vetted data and broad stakeholders' input, not evidence or subjective recommendations that could lead to inconsistencies and flood of waiver requests and even increasing litigation between the parish. Blanket requirements like mandating every new home be built 3 feet above the grade south of I-12 or Highway 190 fail to account for property size, alternative flood mitigation strategies, or the actual causes of prevention from flood claims, many of which are due to plumbing and appliances failures rather than natural disasters. This kind of one-size-fits-all approach will have a real impact on affordability, housing supply, and the rights of existing homeowners, especially when renovations are considered. We respectfully ask you to do 3 things. Do not rush to adopt the pieces and parts of the study without thoroughly vetting its recommendations. Allow more time for independent experts, parish engineers, planners, attorneys, and key stakeholders to weigh in, and then give our association the ability to have a seat at the table and collaborate on real workable solutions that give resiliency without undermining housing affordability on property rights. Good policy is made when we take the time to get it right, not when we rush and risk unintended requests. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'd also like to add a few important facts about this. There's a planning and zoning board member who is also a certified floodplain manager. They made specific recommendations during this process, urging that the area not be painted with such a broad brush. Those professional recommendations were unfortunately ignored in individual.
Thank you.
Yep.
Time's up.
All right.
Thank you. Next person is Shelby LaSalle.
I'm Shelby LaSalle. I'm on the board of directors of North Shore Business Council and co-founder and past chairman. First of all, we do support Zone 1, where between the lake and 190, those areas are flood prone and do support. We ask you to consider pulling down Zone 2. A lot of those areas in there are not necessarily subject to the 100-year floodplain and would be detrimental to put that imposition on those areas. In addition to building houses 3 foot above the natural ground, it would be $20,000 to $50,000 per home. Basically eliminate workforce housing in St. Tammany Parish in that area. Also, I would say to you, it's a little bit of a discrimination against the disabled and infirm to have a house 3 foot above the ground and less likely to be appealable to a small family with small children. So I ask you, like Mr. Farshag did, that you pull that down, let some of the stakeholders in the parish, engineers, consultants, to help you reconstruct that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, I believe this is Kelly McHugh.
Good afternoon. I'm Kelly McHugh, a longtime surveyor and engineer in St. Tammany Parish. And I just want to speak on one thing, and it's the area that's above the 500-year floodplain, which is land that's not in any flood zone, above 190 to I-12. And there's no engineering justification to have that area build houses 3 feet above the ground. All it's going to do is increase the cost of the house. It's not in a flood area. It's not going to flood. Your maps on your flood losses don't show any flood losses in these areas. So why is this thing so broad that it's going to restrict all of that area and not be more specific to the flood-prone areas? So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Mr. Laughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is something I began working on when I first got elected to my previous term in 2023. And speaking for the portion of District 11 only, we had identified this as areas of severe repetitive loss where we were already using federal monies to elevate homes that had been built slab on grade in that area below I-12 and the area below 190. And it just seemed odd to me that why do we continue to build slab on grade homes in these areas? So with the help of the administration, we hired Desireline. Desireline was one of the vendors that also rewrote the code for us, so they were already kind of ahead of the curve for us, and they did tons of LiDAR studies. This area is very flat, and prior to me getting my moratorium in place, I went to the home builders and I asked them where I was going to do it, and only speaking for District 11 at the time, is they said that they didn't build there, that the local home builders weren't building there. My predecessor had to fight major builders who were trying to build 1,900 homes in that area that they thought it was inappropriate. It's been a constant fight. As soon as I got re-elected, Councilman Impastato joined me in the same area. This is just an area that's not going to drain. And what's going to make things worse is if the federal government does, in effect, build that levee eventually. We have gravity-fed drainage. That's all we're going to have. We're never going to have infrastructure. When you mention infrastructure, that is like you got to think of like a concrete drainage canal like Metairie or New Orleans East. We're never going to have that here. We're always going to have that. But if the levee comes, it's going to make it even worse. So all I'm saying is, for now, let's stop building slab on grade below I-12. Above I-12 is a different story, but for my area in District 11, especially, this is a very sensitive area that is currently flooding, and we have had episodes of severe repetitive loss there where we've had to elevate homes. Thank you.
Ms. Casabon?
Yes, that's what I was wondering about. My question when I hit the button is the studies that show this, and we have had an official group study it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. With the help of the administration, we spent about $75,000 with Desireline. They did intensive LiDAR topography maps. This area is so flat that there's no way to create a fall in order to make these areas. And we already have situations where we have existing subdivisions that we're having to re-engineer because they were built before we had regulations and things like that.
And this is just a moratorium till we see what happens with the levee?
No, the moratorium's done. This is now hopefully to end the moratorium and do a zoning change so that we do not try to build slab on grade in that area.
Uh-huh.
And we mitigate the fill or restrict the fill entirely.
Have we had this more study on that for the fill?
Yes.
And mitigation?
We have studied, they have presented to us, they've presented in the public, we've had multiple community meetings about this, they've come to planning and zoning, and I believe they've spoken to us.
So this is no reason,
several times.
This is no reason to think that, they were asking not to rush, more time, a seat at the table. It sounds like we've met all of those
yes, ma'am.
Requirements. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Kugel.
Mr. Laughlin, as I recall, when Desireline spoke, they actually made this recommendation because I noticed that it was two of the ladies actually said this is our recommendation.
That is correct. Sorry. That is correct, Mr. Kugel. That is correct.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll take a motion and a second to refer ordinance calendar number 7822 to the full council.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you. Next is what presentation? All right. Let me find this. Get back to you. All right, next up we got presentations. The presentation number 1 is going to be a presentation to recognize pet partners for National Therapy Animal Day. Councilman Smith and Tanner.
This is Carol, and this is Pepper. Pepper is a therapeutic dog. They go in nursing homes, they go in school, hospitals. I think we need her at the council meeting all the time, but that's beside the point. Here we go. The parish council would like to recognize Pet Partners. Oh, thank you. Pet Partners for their work with the residents of the community, whereas April 30th has been designated as National Therapy Animal Day by Pet Partners, the national leader in demonstrating and promoting the health and wellness benefit of animal assist therapy activities and education. And whereas across the United States there are thousands of Pet Partners therapy animal teams serving our communities. And whereas scientific research shows that interacting with therapy animals can reduce stress, relieve depression, slow heart rate, blood pressure, and strengthen the immune system. And whereas therapy animal teams play an essential role in improving human health and well-being through the human, animal, and bond. Whereas therapy animals teams interact with a variety of people in our communities, including veterans, seniors, patients, students, and those approaching the end of life. Whereas we encourage more pet owners to consider becoming Pet Partners, volunteers, and to help our communities by creating greater access to meaningful therapy animal visits. And whereas our parish is honored to help raise awareness about the importance of therapy animals and express its thanks to the thousands of dedicated handlers who volunteer their time, compassion, and talents to this effort. Therefore, as on the 28th day of April 2025, we, Cheryl Tanner, Councilman District 6, Rick Smith, Councilman District 1, and Parish President Mike Cooper, along with the entire council, do hereby proclaim April 30th the National Therapy Animal Day in St. Tammany Parish. Come on, Pepper.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job.
Would you like to say a few words? Oh.
We just appreciate the opportunity to serve our parish, Pepper and I. Pepper's really the superstar. I just hold the leash.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that are speaking to make sure you speak directly into your microphones, please. There's some people in the back.
No, not you.
Not you. Not you. Also, before I move on, I want to address one thing. Mr. Marino is here. Kevin, we've already referred this over to the full council already, so you're welcome to come back on council day and speak on this matter if you want. Thank you. All right, next up, I want the administration, the council staff would like to say something real quick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Next on the agenda is a presentation that's regarding the Scenic Rivers Act, and there's just a couple things that we wanted to go over to make sure everyone has a common understanding of what's going to happen next. The Scenic Rivers Act is actually state legislation. This council cannot end it or approve it. That it's something that has to go through our state legislative delegation. At the last council meeting, there was a resolution to support some work that Senator Bob Owen is doing in regards to the Scenic Rivers Act. But going forward, so far, there's nothing on our next council agenda to address this legislation again. We have this presentation as an educational opportunity to learn more about it and to understand it. And before I begin, I do have a statement from Senator Bob Owen that he would like to be read. Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I'm unable to attend the agenda review meeting on April 28th due to the fact that we are in the middle of a legislative session. However, please accept this statement regarding SB 124. Thank you for reading this statement, as I believe it may quell some confusion regarding Senate Bill 124. As many of you know, the Scenic Waterways Act, although well-intentioned, often hinders the ability of the government and citizens to clean and maintain scenic waterways. Yes, permits are available under the Act, but it often takes years before any action is taken. That exact scenario played out recently with the Pearl River Lock 1 outlet canal, which took almost a decade to dredge due to the bureaucracy and regulations. Further, multiple waterways currently exist along the scenic waterways that cannot get timely permits to clean and remove lateral garbage dams and blockages. Therefore, my only intent was to add any St. Tammany water systems that needed remediation. Nevertheless, many citizens and homeowners groups have reached out to me in opposition of certain waterways being added to the bill in any form, including Bayou Liberty, Bayou Lacombe, Bayou Klein, and the Chafuncta River. These waterways will be removed completely from SB 124. However, other groups and HOAs have implored me to include certain waterways along the West Pearl River. The West Pearl has multiple man-made causes for this current problems, which are affecting the ecosystem of the river and may change the direction of the waterway completely, causing permanent damage to wetlands downstream. These waterways will be specifically included in the bill. My only agenda in bringing SB 124 is to help clean up and maintain St. Tammany waterways. Unfortunately, the legislative process is confusing and drawn out. Unlike a simple resolution, I cannot make a substantial changes to the bill until SB 124 is formally heard in committee and amendments to the bill can be added. Further, additional changes will certainly be required to put the bill in its proper posture. I also want to mention that this bill will be heard at the Senate Natural Resource Committee on Wednesday at 1 p.m. in rooms 1 through A through B.
Thank you. And who's doing the presentation?
Hi, good afternoon. Before I start the presentation, I'd say the pet therapy dog, that's pretty great. My daughter had a lot of problems growing. She's still young, she's still grown up, but we had a lot of issues with that we had to work out, and a dog has basically changed her life, so thus changed my wife and my life. So, but enough of that. My name's Boyd Boswell. I'm with T. Baker Smith. We're an engineering, surveying, and environmental consulting firm. We have an office here in Covington, several others across Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. But what I'm here today is to talk about the challenge that the Louisiana Scenic Rivers Program and maintaining a Department of Public Works drainage program can cause. But first, I want to talk a little bit about St. Tammany Parish. St. Tammany Parish is a great parish, as y'all know. It's a pretty diverse parish. You've got Lake Pontchartrain moving north, marshes, waterways. It's pretty flat, but then it moves up into hills and forest at the parish. So it's a very diverse local ecosystem. That in itself can cause some challenges even above and beyond a Scenic Rivers program. The Louisiana Scenic Rivers Program is a great program. It's one of the greatest things we have in the state of Louisiana, is maintaining that program to protect those waterways. They provide habitat for wildlife, they provide tourism, residents want to live in areas with those types of projects. However, again, the maintaining a public works drainage system in those areas can be a challenge. And I would say that public drainage is probably the #1 priority of a local public works program, is implementing and supporting drainage programs. St. Tammany's topography being what I said, it goes from low to more hilly and high, has a lot of, it's a lot of wooded, it's a lot of forest. Inevitably, when rainfall events happen, trees will fall, other limbs will break off. Those can cause blockages in waterways. So you want to be able to have the mechanism to be able to go out and actually remove those and clean those blockages out in the right manner, of course. Louisiana Scenic Streams Program is one of the one of the regulatory authorities over a scenic stream that is designated as a scenic stream. Others are the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, 404 permitting process, which I'll come back to in a second. Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, you have both a water quality certification program and a Louisiana Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, which regulates your water, your wastewater, sewage, as you may call it, and other discharges into a waterway. The Corps of Engineers program, anytime you would want to do work within one of those waterways, within a system, whether it be a scenic river or just a regular jurisdictional water of the United States, you must go through that Corps of Engineers process. In St. Tammany Parish, if you're below I-12, you're in what's called the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources Louisiana Coastal Zone. That is another layer of protection on those waterways below I-12. That protection doesn't exist north of I-12 because that's out of the coastal zone in St. Tammany Parish. But you still have that core regulation both in the coastal zone and above the coastal zone. The Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality LDEQ water quality certification is also part of that program. One thing that I know is kind of a challenge in St. Tammany Parish is the wastewater systems, wastewater discharges. The LDEQ's, the Louisiana Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program, has existing permits for those discharges, regardless of where that discharge is discharging into. In many in cases, those have to be permitted, they have to be maintained, they have to be inspected, and they have to be monitored. So that existing program is in effect. I just want to add that while the Scenic Rivers is a great program, the Department of Public Works drainage program that does create a challenge. I formerly worked for a public works department and earlier in my career, and we did have that challenge every day of trying to maintain that, trying to do it the right way. It is something that is critical to being able to maintain a drainage system in St. Tammany Parish. And it's all I've got, and I'm open to questions if anybody needs to ask a question, or I can answer any.
Any questions? Mr. Laughlin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming. I was hoping you could explain it, and I might use the wrong word.
That's okay. I may too.
I think it's lamina flow. You have this, can you explain how, even the smallest snag in a critical waterway or a critical area could impede the drainage for the whole area?
I mean, you can have one piece of debris, one snag, as you said, that can block a waterway, and then because it creates that first initial snag, and then other debris builds up on top of that, and yes, you can cause a blockage in that manner.
And then I do understand that the scenic waterway allows you to do a 50% reduction, but it's of each snag. So it's not like a net. The way I understand it, it's like if this tree is blocking it, the scenic waterways allow us to remove half of that tree.
Well, what you get from a scenic waterway standpoint is you submit a permit application to the Scenic Streams Program, which, give or take, you've got about 30 days after you submit the permit application for it to work through its process. Then you have a 45-day public notice. Then you have you can estimate another 30 days after that before a permit gets issued. So you're looking at 3.5 to probably about 4 months of a permitting process. You are individually submitting a permit application for each individual area that you want to work. So if there's a blockage, a snag, a tree is fallen in a certain area, you're submitting a permit application to remove that tree, that blockage. It's not necessarily for a portion of it, it's for that entire request that you've made.
If I understand you correctly, if I wanted to clean, we needed to de-snag Bayou Liberty, for example, we'd have to identify each snag and get a permit for each one. Is that correct?
That is essentially correct, yes. You could go with this as one larger permit, but that's if they're far enough apart from one another, you're going to have to get an individual permit for each one, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Mr. Imposado?
Can you go into more detail about how the scenic waterway affects sewage discharge quality?
I can and I can't because sewage discharge quality is affected whether it's a scenic stream or not, a scenic river or not a scenic river, meaning those discharges of sewage or wastewater are regulated regardless of that scenario. There's a discharge permit from, in this case, from Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality that regulates those discharges to a waterway. That discharge is regulated whether it's going into a scenic river or into a non-scenic river. So the scenic river scenario does not necessarily add any additional protections from a wastewater standpoint. That is a permit that exists via Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality.
So there's no difference if it's a scenic waterway or not a scenic waterway?
From a discharge standpoint for the wastewater, yes, sir. Now the state is looking at each one of those discharges, but from a pure discharge standpoint, that is the case, yes.
Is there a different permit they have to file or anything?
There's different parameters within the permits, depending what kind of waterway you're discharging into, and that's not necessarily based totally on scenic stream. That's based on the total maximum daily load, the TMDL pollutant load of those waterways, which are set by the state of Louisiana.
Okay. Thank you. I think you answered.
Councilman Phillips?
And hey, Jay, I might need you up here also. Over the past year or before that, the Chinchuba, they were trying to get permits to desnag the Chinchuba, and it took over a year to get the permits. So what was the process that was done to get that permit? I mean, if we're seeing a year or 2 years to get a permit, and there's different types of permits, since you're here speaking of that.
I can speak to the process generally. I can't speak directly to that one.
Okay.
In Chinchuba, we were waiting on a core permit, not a scenic rivers permit.
Which leads to there's different layers of
Correct.
permitting.
Correct.
And what we're trying to do is get rid of a layer so we can desnag certain waterways, correct?
Yes.
And if we don't desnag some of these certain waterways, the potential when hurricane season comes, we could have a lot of flooding.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Laughlin?
Thank you. My question again for the consultant, to build on my colleague, Mr. Impastato's question, but to go back to my scenario where we had a snagged waterway. Okay, so we have a snagged waterway, let's say Bayou Liberty again, and upriver, upstream is a community sewer discharge that's discharging into it. Doesn't the snag create more of an environmental or a theoretical environmental problem, because that water that could normally get discharged into that bayou and then end up in the lake, if it's getting stuck there, isn't it creating more of an environmental disaster because you're concentrating the sewer discharge?
That's a tough one. I guess technically you are holding back water and blocking a drainage way, but there would need to be more study on that. That's not a direct yes or no answer. There's a lot of influences into whether that particular discharge is would cause more harm because of that blockage. That's not really a yes or no answer.
But you would agree, though, that in that scenario, you're keeping that discharge in place versus letting it go because you haven't desnagged the waterway?
Not necessarily. There's a lot of hydrologic functions and actions that happen, and that doesn't, just because you're holding back some water here, doesn't necessarily mean that the way the water flows and the way the water moves, so those pollutants are being held back. They could be moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Councilman Kugel?
I apologize. I had a phone call. If I missed anything. I did. This is very much something that my district's interested in because of the West Pearl River. District 9, I have a large part of the Pearl River. I did go and read actually the proposed legislation, and most of the opposition I do hear, not necessarily from my district, but in emails and such, is removal of certain bodies of water permanently from the Scenic Rivers Act. And one of my constituents who's very environmentally focused did say, once it's removed, it can never be put back. I think, first thing, I think it's important, and I'm sure you know this if you've read the bill, there's actually two real components to it. The first is, I'm just going to read some of the language, notwithstanding any provision of the law to the contrary, beginning August 1st, 2025 through August 1st, 2033, no provision of this part shall prohibit the channelization, clearing and snagging, channel realignment, reservoir construction, or dredging operations for drainage purposes in the West Pearl from Lock 1 to the Wrigley's, and then immediately after that, require a permit for the same thing. This has a sunset provision, which I think does address some of the concerns that once you do this, you can't fix it later, because this part is going to sunset. And I'm going to tell you, as someone that lives very near this area, and a lot of constituents concerned about how long it's been dredging or desnagging or how long this permit process takes, people that live along that area absolutely, I think, are in support of that section of it. I think this, if it saves a year or two when you want to try to get desnagging or dredging done, I think that is absolutely something that that should be considered. As Senator Owen mentioned in his letter, 10 years to get Lock 1 operations done. I mean, it's, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but there really is two components to this, and it seems like most of the focus I've heard in the opposition is just focus on removing items from the Scenic Rivers Act.
I'm not really here to comment about actually those particular ones, just more of the support and more of the challenges of operating a local public works program within the Scenic Rivers program.
Yes, staff, go ahead.
So in Bob Owens's legislation, yes, the West Pearl is only going to be, don't have to worry about the permits for 8 years. The rest of them were a permanent removal. So there was two different, I just want to make sure that was clear to everyone. There was two different parts of it.
And on that, and again, this is not just for you, but for the public, one of my concerns is two of the items that came up was, two items are in my district, Morgan River and Holmes Bayou. And I emailed Mr. Owen over the weekend. I said, you know, I think if you just say the West Pearl and its tributaries, which includes those bodies of water, would be included in that 8 year, I think that would probably work. So that's just my thoughts. But I know this isn't just directed toward you, but just for the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Hearing that latest statement that Senator Owens released has me a bit concerned with removing Chifuncta River. Now, I'm not so upset about the main river, the main body of water, but does that include, or does anybody have any idea of his intentions or to remove those tributaries, those some people call ditches, man-made ditches that are now designated to be called scenic? Does anybody have a clue as to his latest statement that I just learned about sitting here in this meeting? No.
I don't think we have.
Press it again. Press it again.
What's that, Mary?
Did you? Okay. I don't think we have clarity right now, but but we'll try to find that out while this meeting is going on. If it's the Chifuncta River or those tributaries.
Thank you.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes, sir. I don't know if you can help me, but I've been looking for some time for just a very explicit definition of what constitutes a scenic river. What are the requirements therefore? And all I found is a very general statement that I pulled back up. A scenic waterway in Louisiana is defined as a river, stream, or bayou that requires protection and preservation due to its unique historical status and scenic character. This designation includes the aesthetic, recreational, ecological, and geological features of the waterway, ensuring its natural beauty and ecological integrity are maintained. Is there something more than that? That explicitly tells you that in order to even be considered as a scenic river, you've got to meet some explicit requirements, or is that the requirement set that you think they're operating to?
That is essentially the broad definition to meet the scenic streams or scenic rivers criteria. It goes through a process to someone can nominate a waterway to become a scenic river or scenic stream, and it goes through a full process for that.
But it's balanced against that set of requirements as I would characterize broad and general as those are.
It goes back to that initial, those statements, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Kugel?
Mr. Corbin, I think that there's a list of them. I don't know if you saw that. In revised statute 56-1847, it lists the ones that have been legislatively added. And that's the ones that were in this bill are being proposed to be removed. But it's RS 56-1847 has a list. Mr. Smith, I know, I don't want to speak for Mr. Owen. I know he said in the newspaper they were looking, and I think even just to go with what the statement Mary just said, some of the ones that were being proposed to be removed, I think he's now not going to do that. I don't know, and he listed a few of them, but not all of them. So that's what he said in the Slidell Independent last week, and I think, Mary, that's what he said in his statement. But again, I don't want to speak for him, but that's my current understanding.
Councilman Phillips?
If a body of water is removed from the scenic river, like they're proposing, can it be reinstated later, or is it permanently removed at that time?
I think there's some misinformation that once it's permanently removed, it can never go back in.
Okay.
I think through a legislative body, you could add it back at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes, I guess, and Councilman Kugel, I appreciate the reference, but I wasn't looking for a list. I saw the list, I was able to find that. I was really looking for what are the core requirements that substantiated. I haven't been able to find those. Typically, I guess, not typically, sometimes for each of those characteristics, aesthetic, recreational, ecological, et cetera, that there'd be some subset of requirements that would define what that term means. That's what I was looking for. If you happen to stumble across that, I'd love to have it. But
I don't have it. I just think they're legislatively added.
I think that's correct. And so I've had someone from the public explain to me it's a very, very succinct, definitive definition of a scenic river, and I find the only definition I can find is fairly generic. That's my point. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kugel?
I thought the administration in their letter had said they would like, Mr. Smith left, they are requesting that the Tchefuncte tributaries be removed. I don't know if they wanted, the letter that had been sent to Mr. Owen, that the Tchefuncte tributaries are being requested to be removed, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But I might also add to that.
Can you press your?
Thank you. I might also add too that the letter to Senator Owen included that Bayou Cane, Bayou Chinchuba, Bayou Lacombe, Bayou Liberty, Holmes Bayou, Morgan River, Bradley Slough, and Wilson Slough remain in the Scenic Rivers Act, contrary to what was in the original resolution and the original bill. So we are in fact asking Senator Owen to maintain those waterways in the Scenic Rivers Act as it applies to St. Tammany Parish. I did speak to residents from your neighborhood and your jurisdiction, Mr. Kugel, about Holmes Bayou and Morgan River, and that too can also be included in the amendment, proposed amendment to Senator Owen.
Councilman Kugel.
Sorry. So thank you, Mr. President. I sent some of the pictures out. I think you guys saw Morgan River. I went out there Saturday. I think what I had requested after I thought about it more was just this 8-year thing that I know the administration does support, that those two bodies of water also, as tributaries of the West Pearl, would also be included in that 8-year exemption.
Well, our request now is to Senator Owen, absolutely.
Right. Thank you.
And I would urge any council members who wish to attend this hearing on Wednesday afternoon in support of the resolution that was submitted to them.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now we have some speakers. Heather Eller. And you have 3 minutes.
I think that's about as long as my kids will give me anyway. All right, so let's see. Let me get ready. My name's Heather Eller. I've been in the environmental field for 15 years. I started out as an environmental consultant. I worked at Phillips 66 and then at Lafarge most recently. I worked in stormwater, wastewater, and all that stuff. So I'm coming here today as an ex-environmental employee and more of a nature lover and earth activist. I am very appreciative every day of getting to breathe clean air and drink clean water. I'm so grateful for a bountiful fisherman's paradise and the loving community that we have here in St. Tammany Parish. I'm here to stand up for the right thing and take care of this land. I'm here to stand up for our rights as citizens to these environmental protections. These protections were deliberated extensively in the past. They were decided on, people fought for them. There is a reason why we put these rivers into these protections. I understand the permitting process isn't easy. I've had my own permitting issues in the past, but just not wanting to follow the order and get things done ahead of time isn't the answer to stripping protections of our rivers. We need to have these things in place so that the appropriate experts and people get to weigh in on what we're doing, and that we're not just going in and destroying like habitat and ecosystems and water quality. I saw an article in the past about Abita Springs being healing waters. Back when they struggled with yellow fever, people flocked here from New Orleans and metropolitan areas of that time, and they would stay here for weeks at a time, and they would say that they were healed by these magical waters. That's how pristine our waters used to be. Unfortunately, now with this rampant sewer systems that people have septic tanks that go unmonitored and unchallenged for so long, and then these big developments that come in and use these package plants that are really also unmonitored, unenforced, and things like that. We have lots of fecal coliform in our waterways, and I'm scared that stripping environmental protections for these waterways is going to make this problem even worse. There's so many other issues at stake here with mass development and building in floodplains and all of these things. And I just want people to think less about money and less about greed and power and influence, and think more about what are we doing as the right thing? What are we doing for our children, for my kids back there? What are we doing for the future generations? Are we leaving them with problems because we're so money hungry to develop more and more and more and strip our land of every natural resource that's available to us? Or are we thinking about the future and what we need to sustain long term? Thanks, guys.
Next is Margie Vickner Prey, I believe it is.
I'm sorry, Margie Vickner Prey, Lacombe, Louisiana. And I am very much against this delisting of scenic rivers, as all as you probably know if you've read my emails. I have a reason. I have canoed and boated in West Pearl and Doubloon Bayou and all the bayous really in South St. Tammany, and I've lived here since 1960 and have seen a total destruction of our beautiful environment. And I know people are going to keep coming here, but we don't need to keep doing it the wrong way. And by allowing our floodplains to be filled with more subdivisions, which undoing the Scenic Rivers Act will allow, because there is a limit on sewage that is higher than there is on unprotected rivers. And you're saying, the gentleman who spoke, that the Corps will protect our wetlands. Well, there's also a bill at the same day and time that 124 is being heard in the Senate Natural Resources, Senate Bill 94. And it's to basically invoke the Sackett Act in Louisiana, which would say that any wetland that's not contiguous to another wetland is no longer a wetland, which is going to destroy a whole bunch more of our last remaining wetlands. So to take off this protection of scenic rivers, which really is a protection and the only protection, the Corps does not protect any wetlands. They permit 99% of the permit requests that come to them. So saying that the Corps is going to protect our wetlands is a joke. It's like, no, they won't. They're just going to say, okay, go do it. Once these rivers are opened up and they're no longer scenic and no longer have that scenic protection, which also protects the banks and keeps people from mowing down the trees down to the banks, building bulkheads, they have to leave the snags and things, because that's where the fish live. That's where our wildlife lives. I mean, if you want to go fishing in our rivers, which you might not want to with the sewage, but if you do, they're not going to be fish there if we de-snag everything and turn it all into channelized canals. I mean, yes, it's good for drainage, but it's not going to help the beauty of the parish at all. And as far as snag stopping drainage, they don't, and dredging rivers will not help drainage. Tangipahoa approved it. They did a study. They were going to dredge their river and realized after the study was done that it wouldn't help their flooding issue, that it really does not reduce it that much. What does reduce flooding in homes that exist now is to not build more homes in the floodplains, so that the homes that are there are not going to go underwater, because you're now filling in the area where the water used to go. And like he said, it's all flat. So everything, the water used to spread out across South St. Tammany when there was a bad rain. Can't go into the lake. The lake's just as high as the rivers. So where does the water go? It spreads out. And if you fill the floodplains, we're killing everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kevin Marino.
Hey, Kevin Marino from Mandeville. I know y'all aren't the ones that are actually making amendments to this, but you know, I've suggested a couple times, you know, when you're rewriting this types of legislation, to really be specific in what you're doing. It seems like Senator Owen went in with a pretty broad brush to just wipe away the scenic river protections, which clearly the residents of St. Tammany do not want. If there's specific problems, it'd be good to make sure we're putting in exemptions or things that actually solve those problems. So if the problem is too many snags too far away cause problems, make the definition of how far away the snags need to be from each other, so that you can put more in one permit. You know, permitting protects our nature, permitting protects our parish. Most people who moved here like the nature, like the scenicness of our nature, and removing that scenic waterway protection will do a lot of damage. I actually hope you talk to Mr. Owen and actually oppose this bill, and hope that he goes back maybe next year or next legislative session and rewrite this so that it actually addresses the concerns of the community and solves the problems you need. It doesn't sound like this process is that onerous. It sounded like 90 days, maybe 4 months to get these permits done. I know the Army Corps takes a whole year. I've had to do an Army Corps permit. You know, this is not the longest permit to do. This is a very well functioning parish. It seems like we can put in together as many permits as we need to do and put as many public meetings as we need to do to get the thing done right and make sure the right environmental studies are done. So I'd suggest you all oppose this and have, you know, a broader study, a better study done, so that y'all work on getting something done that actually helps protect our parish as opposed to hurt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Allen.
Oh, thank you. Could I get somebody to pass these around? I had handouts. Oops, I need to keep one of them. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, my name is Matthew Allen. I'm here representing North Shore River Watch. We're dedicated to the rivers and trying to preserve what we used to have and push back some of the inappropriate developments that we're seeing. First off, scenic rivers has always been, for the last 20 years, the favorite kicking dog for bad decisions. Y'all had, not this old council's fault, but there's been lots of bad decisions in the past. We have to fix it. Scenic rivers does not stop development, it informs how to develop with respect to the rivers. What's stopping development is a refusal to change the building practices in the parish. We're continuing down the same road that has led us to a point where we have issues. I also want to point out that of the 30+ named and unnamed tributaries to the Tchefuncte to be removed, only 5 around Covington have been modified by man. The rest are totally natural. In rural areas, a lot of them are wilderness, and they do support a wide variety of ecology, including some endangered species. That's not what we're worried about. We don't put that over flooding. But there was some misinformation, like LDEQ does go ahead and permit sewage. I agree with that. But back in 2010, I was with the Little Tchefuncte River Association, and we actually filed a lawsuit against LDEQ for not enforcing higher standards for the scenic rivers as required by law. And guess what? We won. And they started having to do it. Scenic rivers, and that's what I brought here on the first page. LDEQ, this is for the sewage permitting discharges, the anti-degradation policy in the LAC. No degradation shall be allowed in high-quality waters designated outstanding natural resource waters. Waters included in the Louisiana Natural and Scenic River Systems will be considered by the department designation as outstanding natural resource waters. The administrative authority shall not approve any wastewater discharge or certify any activity for federal permit that would impair water quality or use of state waters, including waters of the natural, scenic, and river system. That is LDEQ's guidance. That's the laws they have to follow. If it's not a scenic river, they are allowed to degrade water quality if they could show economic benefits and all that stuff. So it's very powerful. And just down there, a little bit about it. Now, the other thing is saying it takes a year to get a scenic river permit. Maybe the permits that your applications aren't following the scenic rivers regulations. And of course, you do have the ability to dredge and desnag all these rivers based on the 2017 exception. And it's all there, but really, scenic rivers by law takes 75 days without public hearings. Add another 30 to that, 95 days with a public hearing to permit. That's it, by law.
Mr. Edward Diano.
Thank y'all. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk today. Several of these waterways, actually in another life, I had put on the scenic rivers when I had the honor of representing portions of St. Tammany in the legislature. And it came about through the belief, and the belief by many people, that we're blessed with the probably most beautiful waterways in the state. And as someone mentioned, they're very diverse. They're bayous. There's fast-running rivers. There's a lot of them, and they absolutely need to be protected. Unfortunately, I think what's happening, there's a few things happening here that I just want to call to your attention. One is that there's a process to declassify. Under the law, there's an 8-month study that is supposed to be done before a river is declassified or put on. Either way, either put on or taken off. And all of these were done with a study to put on. There was no legislation that said just put them on, like there is legislation here to just take them off. And if we had had the study as required by law, now there's an exception. If you don't want to do the study, you don't have to. I know of no example where a river was taken off without studies being done in this state. And that's the reason we have the confusion today. Is it in? Is it out? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? Because there's been no study. There's been no analysis here made. I think this has been a real rush. I was kind of surprised to see that advertisement was waived so it could be taken up and passed to move on without any public input. The other thing I'd like to say is I think we're building on mistakes here. There are a lot of places that should have never been built where they are, and we're reacting to that right now. What we need to do is find a way, first of all, to be proactive instead of reacting to the types of mistakes that have been made in the past. What we really need to do is to know that these ancient waterways, which were built over years because of very slight geographical deviances, are never going to be able to solve all the future drainage problems in this parish, particularly in the next 20 years when all the timber leases expire. You've got 40% of this parish under timber leases. What's going to happen when those are gone and people start developing that? We need to make plans for that. We need to know when those leases expire, and we should have a unified and uniform drainage plan for this parish, rather than reacting and say, oh, we're going to take this off of scenic rivers, we're going to dredge this, we're going to take this, desnag this. It's destructive and not productive, and I'm just suggesting that we be more foresighted with it.
Thank you. John White.
John White, Mandeville, Louisiana, Cherry Creek subdivision. I kind of fell into this once I found out that Senator Owen was actually our representative. I like the political process. I'm not totally familiar with it, but if the largest part of my constituency is located in this parish, why would I not enjoin this parish and the folks that represent this parish if I'm going to present a bill in front of the Louisiana State legislature? I'm a little confused with that. Secondly, I'm kind of disappointed that the senator wasn't here today. I know that we don't have our schedules in sync, and I understand that. But more importantly, I wanted to compliment the council itself on saying, hey, wait a minute, let's step back, let's take a breath. And we want to learn a little bit more about this situation before we move forward, or, now it's kind of putting the cart in front of the horse, if you know what I mean. The bill is going to be introduced, or it has been introduced, without any impact or input that I can tell. But anyway, getting down to the difference, or what I see in the bill itself, we got proponents and we got opponents to the bill itself. But I have to ask myself, okay, so, what is the situation right now? And yes, you can, remove obstructions. Okay, 10 years, I think that was an extreme example, especially from the folks that testified already. It might be a year, okay? But even if we can do that right now, we haven't done a good job. Slidell, I was doing some research on that. They got, federal funds to clean out all kinds of tributaries in that area, and they didn't pay a nickel. So that kind of brings me to the point, even if we were as a group, or you were as a group, to go ahead and pass this idea, or say, hey, listen, now, we have this restriction off, look at all the stuff we can do as far as cleaning the scenic areas or tributaries. Who's going to pay for that? How come it hasn't been done already? Is it really a question of funds at this point? I don't know. These are some questions that y'all might be able to answer for me. But it seems like that would be rather expensive to clean out a bunch of tributaries. But of course, at the same time, I don't know. Perhaps there's a priority basis that could be discussed. Hey, here's the one that causes the biggest impact to our parish. Even though that's not my district, it makes sense. It makes sense to me to support that. But anyway, that's some of my comments, and I do, again, appreciate y'all, bringing this to at least the public's attention. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Alex Landry.
Hey everybody, I'm Alex Landry, Mandeville resident, Louisiana master naturalist. I love going outside, the outdoors, but I don't really like public speaking, so you'll bear with me. So I'm about to be 33. I'm lucky enough not to remember a day where we couldn't really use our waterways. The generation before me put in a lot of time to make sure that our water, our streams, our bayous, they're all clean enough for us to enjoy. I'd like to, point out the irony of this being kind of an education session to clear up, misconceptions and misunderstandings about this bill, but the bill's author isn't here, for good reason, of course, but, and it seems like the city council, we're not even sure if the tributaries of Little Tchefuncte are gonna be added in this bill, which I think is, it's about to be voted on. We should at least know that. And the tributaries, I think, were on the Little Tchefuncte River, which, they're not the main ones, but anything upriver is going to come downriver. So I think including a tributary, even though you remove the main river, is kind of backwards. The engineering consultant that spoke first, he said that it's about 4 months for a permit. So I'm not sure why, we're it might have taken 10 years for a permit for Senator Owens, but it seems like that is the anomaly when the consultant said it's 4 months for a permit. And if it's 4 months for a permit, why do we want to sunset it for 8 years? A lot of damage can happen in 8 years. And the snags, the habitat, like Margie said, there's a lot of habitat within snags for the wildlife, for the snakes, for the fish, for the frogs, amphibians. I know the parish understands the importance of our natural areas. There's just that groundbreaking on the new natural area park over there on Lacombe, which is, awesome. I love to see that. I'm a naturalist by trade. I make my living outside, showing people the outdoors. And I think this bill is counterintuitive to it. You know, at the Nature Conservancy owns land in Lake Ramsey, and there's 2 species of flower, the many-flowered pink orchid and Hooker's milkwort. Those are adjacent to the little Tchefuncte River, and there's only one place in Louisiana these 2 beautiful wildflowers occur, and that's in our parish at Lake Ramsey. And I think it's short-sighted to remove it. I don't understand why this is something that was sprung on us less than a month ago, and it seems like there's a big drive to do it now. I think there's value in patience and waiting. You know, if something has to happen, it doesn't have to happen now. This is a problem that's been a while in the making, and we could take a few months to be thorough and deliberate about this. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bruce Wayner.
Good afternoon. Bruce Wayner, North Shore Business Council, founder, past chairman. So I agree that there's certain tributaries that deserve scenic river protection, but we have some other tributaries that flow into this, and I'll use Flowers Bayou for an example. So we actually sold the drainage right-of-way to DOTD that created Flowers Bayou. It was to drain I-12. I have the documents here that say just that. It was a drainage ditch to drain I-12. Concerning North Shore River Watch, Mr. Allen did a study on Flowers Bayou. That study said first of all, the community surrounding Flowers Bayou supports restoration efforts. It'll improve the bayou's capacity to manage floodwaters. So I think this is a perfect example of removing these scenic streams, these scenic ditches to improve water drainage. They're snagged. They block drainage. We're reducing runoff in our subdivisions 25%, but it's only as good as what's downstream. So I'm in support of removing certain tributaries, but I also agree that certain rivers, the Tchefuncte River, Cane Bayou, Bayou Liberty, should remain under that designation. Thank you.
Thank you. And we had 6 speakers that did not wish to speak. Councilman Kugel.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate a lot of the comments. One of the things, I did have some questions for Matt in just a second, but I first wanted to say, I think it's also always important to understand in context that there are a lot of people that oppose some of these things, I think philosophically and in principle, but I think the people that I really understand this the most, at least in terms of the 8-year West Pearl River issue, is the people that live there and have lived there and have their homes there. And they have been asking, at least, and this is a separate thing from removing anything from scenic rivers, the 8-year portion, which is what I'm focused on, they have been asking for this for quite a while. I just went Saturday out on Morgan River. One of the places I entered on a boat, it was blocked on both sides. You can't get anywhere. I then went and visited a widow, one of my constituents that lives also on the Morgan River, but another side, and she's very concerned about flooding and the way it's set up right now, how difficult it is to deal with these things. This is a major issue, and I don't think it's not because these people don't care about the environment or they're selfish or anything. They just have an issue where they live, and they've had this for a long time. One of the first places I went when I started campaigning for this seat almost 2 years ago was to a gentleman that lived on Pearl River, and he has an article from 1993 where he was saying we need to get this place dredged. It's causing an issue. There's regular flooding, etc. And I do want to, Matt, I had a few questions for you because I think that we have opportunity for some consensus on this because, again, it's important to understand. My understanding from what Mr. Owen's position is now, and I don't want to speak for him, is he's going to remove some of the contested the request for some of the contested rivers from that act. My concern, being in the east side of the parish, right next to Pearl River, is I really want it easier to deal with some of the issues I've mentioned. And I sent some of the pictures to the administration. I sent some of the pictures today to Christine, which we don't have an opportunity to put them online right now. But I just went out Saturday, and it's just, you can't even navigate. That's how bad it is. But now I understand that you, in principle, do agree on some of these things in terms of the West Pearl River portion.
Yeah, I do in principle. And our issue is really the method has come about with really no public discussion at all, and then lumping everything in together. But I've talked with a few people who are concerned with that, and they explained part of the project of cutting off Fisher's Ditch. That's adding to the sediment problem. And we're all for stuff like that. Redirect that water where it's supposed to go. You know, that was a man-made problem. Let's go ahead and do it. But my question is, why take it all the way out of that scenic rivers, even for the 8 years, when the precedent that's been set has been to give an exception for it? And again, the scenic rivers only takes at most 90 days or 95 days from when the permit application is public noticed.
Well, one thing I want to say, going back to the legislation, the West Pearl part does not remove it from the scenic river. It just says, because that's a separate part. It just says for those 8 years, the law, I think the Scenic Rivers Act, will not prohibit this channelization, clearing and snagging, channel realignment, reservoir construction, or dredging operations for drainage purposes in the West Pearl, and not require a permit during that time. It still remains scenic rivers. They just relax some of the requirements for that time, and it automatic. Like one of my constituents, you would know their name if I said it, but they're like, oh, once you remove it from scenic rivers, it's you're afraid, and I understand that concern that it may never get added back. This does not, the 8-year portion, which is what I'm focused on, does not remove anything from a Scenic River Act, and it just relaxes the requirements for 8 years. And I'm just going to tell you, this is something I've heard about, and they want it to be easier. I live about a mile from where this is, and I think we can come to some consensus just to at least for the West Pearl part. Oh, and that, go ahead.
I really do think, but if I just have a moment, I'd like to bring up an example of what can go wrong by removing it. And I'm talking about the Comeet diversion project over in East Baton Rouge Parish. They've actually given it a time limit, 5 years to work on, take it out, and now they're asking for another 5 years. And there's going to be another 5 years. But what they've done in the meantime is they went way beyond whatever they should have been doing. And without the oversight, there's been a lot of damage to that Comeet River that didn't have to happen. And that's why we're concerned about, keeping some oversight here. And especially with these tributaries, they're outside the coastal zone. To dredge them and clean them, all you need is a general permit that doesn't even get public noticed. So it cuts the public out of everything with our scenic rivers.
So let's say that you know more about this than me. Yeah. This is your expertise.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And again, first off, obviously we have very little say in this because this is a legislative issue, but we are, I guess, to an extent closest to the people. You guys can come and speak to us at these meetings. Let's say the West Pearl part happens, okay, and the bill passes with at the very least the West Pearl provision. Yeah. That just removes one of the many steps in the process that in order to dredging operations and desnagging. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
So you still have Army Corps, you still have DEQ, DWF, Fish and Wildlife?
No, it's really there you probably have to have a coastal use permit too, because you're below
so this just relaxes one part of the entire process that does still allow for public
it does, but the water quality certification, that's usually just a rubber stamp. It's something they put in an NOI for, and I've never seen one denied in all my years here. But no, really, I'm getting up here trying to help y'all understand the Scenic River Act here and all of its major consequences across the board, which, nobody really thinks about it. But I've been doing this for 18 years now.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kugel.
Councilman Laughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to thank everybody for coming out. Those of y'all who are opposed to the Scenic Rivers Act, I would invite you. We are moving in the right direction on some things. Councilman Impastato and I are, at least I know I am today, public enemy number one against the developers because of my coastal resilience policy that you saw me fighting at. We're trying to change the way houses are built and trying to change things here, so we are moving forward. This is one thing, though, I have to question y'all is and it's in y'all's rhetoric that I see online, is this isn't something that was generated by the developers. This was something generated by our ability to do our job for you, which is maintain drainage. All we're ever going to get here are our drainage, what we have. All right, and we have, for those of y'all who have been here, in 1970 we had 60,000 people. We have 280,000 people, so that's a fact that we got to deal with. All right, and like I mentioned earlier, if the federal government builds that levee in Slidell going to Lacombe, it's just going to make things worse. So we're going to have to try to do everything. So we didn't try to do anything underhanded. If you want to talk about the schedule, this is just, we have to comply with the schedule of, when it's bills like this, with the schedule of the House and the Senate when they put things on. All the council did was a resolution. It doesn't do anything legally. It just says at the time the council supported it. Some of us, like me and Mr. Impastato, have changed our minds on it. I removed Bayou Liberty. Mr. Impastato removed Cane Bayou and Bayou Lacombe. So, or put them back in. It's a little, using the word removed is confusing. But I do want to thank y'all, and I do hope y'all support our coastal resilience, because I think we're going the right way on that. Thank you.
Councilman Kugel.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I do, just to concur with Mr. Laughlin, one of the major issues we hear back from our constituents about is drainage. And I'll just give a great example of, there's a community called River Gardens in my district right by Pearl River. And I know Daniel is very involved, aware of them. And they're just, all the time, their streets are flooding because they're right next to Pearl River and they're begging for something to be done. And it's just where the homes happen to be. So I am focused on whatever we can do to try to bring some relief to these people while also respecting environmental concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next presentation. All right, next on the agenda is a presentation regarding the Camp Salmon edition of navigation activity. Councilman Phillips.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Go up there. Okay.
I'll wait till they clear out.
Go. You ready?
Okay, Rick Lauterbach is a former Boy Scout in Troop 23, New Orleans, having many interactions with Camp Salmon. He also is currently a lieutenant colonel with the Louisiana Wing of the Civil Air Patrol with 27 years experience in emergency services in both air and ground operations. After a career with Dow Chemical, he returned to returned to the state and parish in 2025 and has been supporting emergency services activities in several community service activities. And he's recently done some projects at Camp Salma. This is in Jimmy's district. Jimmy, I'm sorry I took that because I didn't think you'd be here. And Rick, you got the floor.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for, I was out there Saturday when they did the groundbreaking, and this is a great project for the youth in the community to learn how to navigate and use compasses. So we thank you all for what you're doing. And I didn't know if I was going to be here, so I thank you, Pat, for presenting it.
Okay. Like I said, I'm Rick Lauterbach, and thank you for the introduction. Those introductions you mentioned are nice experiences that give me the connection to Camp Salmon and the project that I've been working on. So just to let you know, we've been working since November to put a new recreational opportunity into the Camp Salmon Nature Park. They're always looking for more things to have people come to the park. And what we put in is we put in a land navigation or a compass orienteering activity. It is now available to the public, and it was just promoted, as Councilman Strickland mentioned, at the Trails Celebration event this Saturday. The activity provides another way for parks visitors to experience the park. Where this is a nationwide sporting activity, currently there are no orienteering courses in our area, and there are only 2 in the state of Louisiana. For those who may not be familiar with the orienteering activity, let me explain by contrasting to just walking a trail as you would currently in the parks. By walking around the parks, you're following existing trails that are well cleared, and you're having to stay on those trails as you move around the parks. The issue, though, is that those trails only cover a small area, and so therefore you cannot enjoy a lot of the other things that the park has to offer, and you never experience those. A compass orienteering course adds some additional challenge while you explore the park, because it does not just follow the, what it allows you to do is explore the park by not being bounded by any fixed trails. So you get to use a larger piece of the park and experience it. You use only a compass, as simple as this, and you have a set of instructions which are in a document such as this, and by counting your steps, you can explore the park by locating various markers as you go through the park. Using the compass orienteering guide booklet, which is what this is the example here, you're provided with several courses. Each course has a series of steps, or we refer to as legs, and each leg specifies a compass direction that you will follow and a distance that you will need to move. If you do it correctly, you'll be moving from what's called a waypoint or marker to another one as you move around the park. These legs actually take advantage of open fields, some of the marked trails that are there, and also some small woods. The added challenge that I mentioned is that you do not have a marked trail to follow, so you must get your directions and be able to move a distance. But it's not so much of a challenge that people will not be able to do this, because if you do, let's say, not necessarily complete a leg properly, all you do is back up and you can redo that leg again so you can continue the activity. What we've been able to do is add a total of 5 courses and then created a total of 2.2 miles of courses. To accommodate all capabilities, we have a beginner course, we have 3 intermediate courses, and we have a 1.2 mile advanced course. So it's available basically to all levels of people experience. Incorporated into the course guidebook, which is like the example I have here, we've also incorporated challenging some questions, challenge items, and some other historical tidbits that provide additional information and activities as you go around. The activity is designed for individuals, groups, and is a fun activity for a school field trip project. With the provided instructions, even novices, all the way up to advanced orienteering or geocache people, can enjoy this activity. To do the activity, to fill you in, you simply need to obtain the course guidebook, which is this is the example here. It is made available and downloaded from the park's website. So that's how a person would go. They would see some information from the website. If they're interested, they would download this. They need to obtain some type of compass. It can be inexperienced. Of course, if you don't even want a compass, as well, most of us have cell phones today. A simple app on the cell phone takes care of that problem. And then what you do is you pick your course you'd like to do, and then go ahead and follow the instructions. This project has been able to be accomplished without any cost to the parish. Material donations by Home Depot and community service help from the St. Tammany Cadet Squadron of the Civil Air Patrol have made this activity possible. I would also like to thank Councilman Strickland and also Councilman Phillips, CRT Coordinator Tracy Conway with the park, Department of Public Works Holly O'Neill, and the Park Manager Latif Amin for their support in allowing this activity to be added to the park's recreational offering. Once the final waypoints have been put in place and the orienteering info page has been added to the park's website. Another benefit that the park will see is that there are 3 national organizations that support all kinds of orienteering activities. Each of these national organizations have a locator, which is basically a where to go orienteering. Once we have, I release them, if you come into the area and you say this area, our area here, New Orleans or the area, currently if you go to those places, nothing shows up. Once we have it activated, then basically the Camp Salmon Nature Park will now appear as another recreational opportunity when you come to the area. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time. Just wanted to fill you in. And like I said, we're right about ready to, again, we did a promotion at the thing, but the final markers are en route, and then we will get the website taken care of, and then it's available to everybody. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I do have some of the booklets here if anybody's interested in looking at them. And do you want to, I think we're probably,
Well, thank you.
okay. If you want to see what we did create, you want to go ahead and pull it up?
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, real quick, not taking much time, of the park though, because again, one of the key requirements working with this, since it's Camp Salmon Nature Park, we could not go in and either modify or basically change the park. So we had to work within it. Just as an example here of the beginner course, which is in the area, but if you go forward a couple, I'll show you how challenging it can become. These are the courses you would be actually walking through the park. None of these courses are actually on the current marked trail system. And you can see here, if you keep going, go ahead another one, or go to the back one. There is the advanced course. The advanced course, like I said, lets you explore every part of the park that's available. Okay. So anyway, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Meeting adjourned. Stay for finance.